Let's go.
Are we waiting for the chime?
We're okay to go. We're going to go by what the TV guy says.
All right.
We'll begin the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance, and hopefully it won't be interrupted by really loud chimes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll begin the meeting with a moment of silence. This meeting's being recorded and televised by the local cable company. I'd like a motion to approve bill and payroll warrants.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept correspondence in the read file.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And approval of the meeting minutes, open session, August 28th.
So moved.
Second. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll abstain. I don't think I was present that day. And here we go. What we are hearing right now are the chimes of a clock that was built in 1820?
1810, I believe.
1810. And you want to introduce the clock?
Sure. So this clock has, I believe it was originally at the GAR Hall. And I, from speaking with Marie Layler, the chair of the Historical Commission, I think the best thinking on it is that it was rescued from the fire at the old GAR Hall. It has been, it's obviously property of the town. It's been over at the library in what had been the historical room there for several years. And it's now found a new home here at Town Hall. It was actually just brought over by Mr. Ross Hochstresser, who's a clock fixer and expert extraordinaire, and in conjunction with the Historical Commission, it was just brought over today to its new home so that it can be enjoyed by everyone and probably make it on television occasionally, but be able to be seen and appreciated by everyone in Whitman.
Okay.
And I think I misspoke. I think I read 1811, but it's probably not for sure when it was. But
Okay, thank you. You might notice that before we go any further, that the room looks a little bit different this evening. Paying attention to the CDC guidelines that are on our front door that say that no matter whether you're vaccinated or not, you should be wearing a mask inside, and also to wash your hands and to observe social distances. So this is an attempt to observe social distances. We've been getting excellent weekly reports from the fire chief. Every week we get some information about how COVID's doing at Whitman. This last week, the positivity rate was 4.28%, about the same as it was the week before. Just for comparison purposes, the positivity rate in Massachusetts is 1.99. So we're not in the easy zone. We're not in the torrid zone. We're not in the easy zone, but we still have to be pretty careful, and we have to remember that this is something that is still with us. It has reached 7:05, and now it's time for a public hearing with respect to the petition of the Mass Electric Company and Verizon New England Incorporated for permission to allow National Grid to install new JO pole P4, P3, and P2 on Pine Street. Lincoln, would you like to introduce this?
Sure. So this, the board's approval is required to install new telephone poles in town on a public way. Pine Street's a public way. This was initiated at the request of the property owner nearby there on Pine Street to bring electricity in to a piece of property that the property owner would like to build a home on. So it's not available, that electricity is not available there unless the board approves the installation of these three poles. So I'm not sure if there's anyone here to speak about it. Yes. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name's Simon Young. I'm one of the National Grid engineers. I designed this job, and we're tapping off of Bedford Street. There's currently one pole down on the Pine Street, and we're feeding 55 Pine Street is the new building owner, and we're building 3 poles down and extending primary and secondaries to this new house. And I believe there's going to be more homes later on, so we might be doing more petitions for additional poles later.
Anyone have any questions?
Yes, Pat, I do. Either any of these poles, will they have a street light on them?
There's no request for streetlights. I believe Whitman owns, right?
We do
You
own our own streetlights.
So you can latch on to them.
We put them up, we own them.
Brian, did you want to say something?
I have a few questions, actually. How much does one of those poles cost?
I don't handle too much of the financials, but it depends on the cables that we install onto them. So let's say this is single phase and secondaries. I would say, I'm just gonna give it a ballpark. It's around maybe $4 to $5 grand for the single phase and secondaries. For the span too, I would believe.
And who pays that bill?
I believe it depends on, let's say, because this is a new extension, whoever is building this parcel of land will have to, let's say, disperse this with all the lot owners. And that's how I believe they kind of separate this line extension. We won't kind of put all the bill on one kind of parcel, but it depends on how our customer reps work with the owners and all the lots, because I feel like there is probably 3 additional lots maybe later in the future, so the cost could be split with those owners.
So if this is, the burden of the cost is on the resident who requested the pole for the new building. I personally think the town should be paying for this bill, not the resident. But let's just say in general, on any street, if a car came down and clipped that pole off, completely off, who would pay that bill?
Insurance.
Let him answer.
Yeah, I believe there is we have a maintenance type of bucket where we would probably charge maybe whoever the insurance that hit the car
Yeah.
to the pole, or there's a bucket for that, so we won't charge
what
anyone
my
to
next
it.
question is, what if that person is uninsured? So who's paying that? Because I heard of a different figure. I heard up to $20,000 for this pole
Well, that's if
to
there's
install with everything, the wires and the whole 9 yards. That's why I think it's excessive.
I don't really see a bill that hands out when the post gets hit. I feel like we normally rectify it and just replace the pole around the spot when the pole gets hit. And then later on, I feel like there probably is like I mentioned, a bucket where we would charge maybe the state or the insurance company at the end with that complete bucket.
So when this pole gets installed, will the resident, because right now there's only one resident there, because the other parcels are not being built on, will they get a bill directly for that whole amount?
That's what I heard is the case at the moment. So if there is some conversations going on, I believe you can probably work with the people that handles like the financials. I believe there's some supervisors could work with the customers to kind of have them justified in some way where they'll get some money or credit back when there's more building in the future, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Is the resident here? Would you like to say anything about this? Comment on it at all?
Yeah, there's one resident that's going there. And the number you quoted is 100% correct.
20 grand.
You have to go 500, I walked it myself, I'm the electrician and the homeowner. It's 520 feet. I walked with Simon. And we walked it, blah, blah, blah. We assumed there was always going to be a cost involved in it. I didn't, never in a million years.
Right.
I mean, people put in, whole developments, and they're paying the same amount that I'm paying just to go 500 feet up the street to get power to my brand new house.
Yeah. And these lots were in existence for quite some time.
Yes, they have been,
They've been in her mom and dad's name since
since I can remember.
70s, 80s. So it's,
Earlier than that.
and all we did on our end is we just got a section from my in-laws and went to the registry of deeds, and now it's a piece is in our name, but all it did was change hands. There's always been a lot there.
So I guess my question would be then, if this has been lots for quite some time, why wouldn't there have been poles there already? If there's a plan in place for streets and they know how many lots are on there, why wouldn't that pole be there already 40 years ago? That's, I think, the question I have, and the fact that it's such an excessive amount, trying to protect the citizens.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that because and how I see it and install any infrastructure, should be existing where we can kind of latch onto the distribution system, but this one's like you all can see there's 3 additional poles that we have to add in, and probably more in the future, so this is kind of new to me.
I realize it's not your fault. But I guess I'm just raising these questions because I think it's an unfair burden upon these residents, and in the future, I think, this obviously is going to be more. There's other, other lots there, and there's other buildings going around town. So I don't know if you could check that.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, so a couple things. I was equally surprised that, Pine Street is a public way. I don't know how long it's been a public way, but a long time.
It's been there since the 1800s.
Exactly.
Before electricity.
What's that?
Before electricity.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I think I know, in speaking with Amy, the landowner, I know I was equally surprised that this would be a burden on the landowner, and certainly share your thoughts that that's unfair. Certainly had conversations with several folks at the electric company to say, isn't there something that you can do to bring down this cost, to share it in some way, et cetera. Unfortunately, both myself and Superintendent Martin, the DPW, didn't have a lot of success with that, despite our efforts. I think as far as the town paying for it, we could certainly appropriate monies to do that. There is no funding source right now, right? But certainly that's something we could look into. The other thing is that in looking at the in looking at the plot plan there, there is Mass Highway land, state land that backs up to Pine Street there. So it certainly seems to me like that should be perhaps a possibility because they would have access to additional electricity. They have electricity from Bedford Street, but certainly that's a benefit to the state-owned land there. So that's certainly something that, I wanted to continue to pursue to see, in conjunction with our state delegation, to see if perhaps the state might be able to pay something, and seeing as how it would also be a benefit to them.
I think that at least Representative Sullivan is aware of this, and maybe Senator Brady too. So I think they're aware of it, and they haven't had any luck either. But related to that, that street has got a lot of problems. A lot of trash gets dumped there. It's very dark around that section. If we're going to put these poles up, maybe we should think of having additional street light put in, maybe, because I know Superintendent Martin has had a lot of trouble with trash dumping in that section. So if we could maybe look into some lights down there, maybe it would deter the trash dumping and maybe somebody not clipping off the pole. So just my thoughts on it anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, that also, at least that's less than $20,000, right? But that also, as far as installing streetlights, the history is that when a resident would like a streetlight, that they contract directly with the electricity company to put that in. But certainly, I think that's something else that we could consider having an appropriation for in the future is installing new streetlights where they're desired.
The fact that we took over the lights and purchased them and maintained them, kind of think it's our responsibility. But again, my thoughts only.
Just to, I guess, kind of play, I have no problem, obviously, when the pole gets up, putting a street light in. It's absolutely to the town's benefit. As much as I do think $20,000 for a pole is excessive, if we're talking a developmental parcel here that has several other lots on it, I don't think the town goes on the hook for that for another developer, and I think we definitely have a problem there if we start extending the town's money for development.
Yeah.
Although I'd like to help them out, because obviously it's...
I actually think it might be that company that should step forward.
So right now, there are a lot of questions and no solutions, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I think that they would want to go
Except you want
forward
electricity.
anyway.
You want electricity.
You don't want
Oh,
any
absolutely, yeah. Can I say something else about the
Sure.
parcel? So it's not a development, it's just my family's land, so there's really not going to be any other houses going there, as far as I know. The only other person that might build there would be my brother, so it's not like it's...
Is it like is it a paper street, or...
No street. It's just a big lot of land,
Subdivided.
family land.
Yeah.
So my father-in-law had 6 acres of land.
Yep.
Back in the day, there was his house and 2 parcels of land on there, if you want to look at it that way, 2 lots. One for my wife and one for her brother.
Yep.
Since, with the frontage rules, this, that, and the other thing, we've gone before the registry of deeds. Now there's a lot in our name, and the rest of the land is in my father-in-law's name. So there is no multiple plots up there anymore. There is my father-in-law's land and my land. And we own all the way to the wetlands, the way it currently comes down the street right now. So my father-in-law, if anything ever did happen there, but it's not like a developer comes in and says, I'm going to blow up 20 houses down there. But I've had multiple conversations with tons of different people at National Grid, and we keep coming back to the same person. There's nothing he can do. Basically, I'm going to be hostage because my house could be done in 4 to 5 weeks, and we don't even have signs of power. So my house can be completely done, and I'm sitting there with no power coming down the street. So at this moment in time, we're ready to pay that, but that's kind of what this meeting was for. It wasn't just that kind of, hey, can somebody else pay for it? But we want to move forward without a doubt.
Oh,
wanna get in my-
I'm absolutely 100% in favor of, granting the poll.
Right. Oh, yeah, I'm with you there. But the funny thing is, they didn't know I was going to bring this up, so I'm just doing it on behalf of the citizens of the town because I just think it's an outrageous amount of money. So, I try to bring light to it, no pun intended.
I guess, I know you just said it's not development, but,
Right.
when it's split over 20 houses to get,
Right.
unfortunately, sometimes building one isn't cost effective. But I'll make the motion to approve the poll.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, does anyone, no further discussion?
I'll just,
It's kind of tough to have a discussion without a positive solution. Yes.
Carl, could I real quick? So yeah, as with most utility matters, I'm going to abstain from this because I work for the Department of Public Utilities and could be a conflict there. That's it.
Anyone else?
I guess the only other solution would be off-grid, and I don't think they're prepared for that.
Okay, seeing no other comments or questions, all those in favor? Aye. And one abstention. Well, you're partway there, I guess. At least there'll be heat pretty soon. I just want to correct something, too. I noticed as I looked at as I was going through my package here, and I was actually at that meeting in August, the last meeting I missed, so... Okay, so I'm not abstaining from that vote, I'm actually approving it. The next item on the agenda is to act on the request of the town clerk to issue a warrant for unlicensed dogs to the animal control officer.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? My least favorite motion of the year. How many unlicensed dogs do we have? Do we know? that we're issuing arrest warrants for?
I don't have the number in front of me. I can get it. Looks like Lori might have it.
It's usually like about 400.
I think we used to get a list.
1,271.
171 outlaw dogs? Wow. Okay, so what we're doing now is we're okaying warrants for those dogs' arrests. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Any discussion? I remember a number of years ago, we had a little dog that never left the house. A little tiny poodle kind of dog, a scared, frightened little dog. Never left the house. And we got a call. We got a call from the police department that he was that she was an unlicensed dog and we needed to take care of it somehow. It was kind of amazing to me that the police department would spend its time checking up on unlicensed dogs, but it was an intern, I think, that was working on it. And so we put a bag over the dog's head whenever we took it out for a walk, and eventually we did get a license. It was an oversight. So I mentioned that at the meeting, and then a week later I was like hammered by the then town clerk, because that's a matter they take very seriously, and it sounded like I didn't take it seriously, but I do. People should license their dogs, just to make that clear.
I have one question.
Yes.
Do we send them letters to the ones that the owners of the animals?
Yes, I believe the town clerk does that. No? No.
WACOs make phone calls.
They make phone calls?
That's a lot of phone calls.
Warrantless
I know.
arrests.
You would think we'd charge them a fee because of that.
There is a late fee.
Okay.
There is a late fee.
Not enough to cover the $20,000 for the electricity, but we collect some money from it.
I don't know.
That's the homeowners, $100 for each dog.
Okay, let's get those dogs. Do we have a motion?
Yes.
And we have a second?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is to act on the application of Memorial Field Association Incorporated, doing business as the American Legion Post 22, for a change of officers, directors in connection with the all-alcohol club liquor license on the premises located at 33 Legion Parkway. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item.
Thanks.
Yes, you're welcome. Next item on the agenda is to act on the application of Wicked Loft Cafe, Catherine Mitchell, for a common vittler's license on the premises located at 7 Marble Street, Unit B1, subject to receipt of the license fee and a lease agreement, final approval of the Board of Health, Fire Chief, and Building Commissioner, and surrender of the current license on the premises. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? Is anyone here from the Wicked Loft? Hi. Anything you'd like to say? Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. All those in favor then?
Aye.
Good luck and congratulations.
I think there's a second part to that thing.
Yes, there is. I haven't gotten to it yet, Dan.
Okay,
Give
just-
me a chance, will you please?
Oh, yes.
Happens to take tonight.
Thought you were going to jump by it. Sorry.
Why would I jump by it?
Oh, I don't know.
If approved, it says, take action to rescind the common vittler's license for Wicked Loft, Robert Peterson, on the premises located at 7 Marble Street, Unit B1. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now you can leave. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
I might have forgotten it, Dan, so thank you. Act on the application of M. Gately LLC, doing business as South Shore Auto Connection, for a Class 2 auto dealer's license on the premises located at 581 Bedford Street, subject to receipt of the license fee, final inspection, approval of the building commissioner, and surrender of the current license on the premises.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? Is there anyone here from Gately? Anything you want to say?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
Go to Wicked Smoothie.
And we will be taking action to rescind the other guy's license as soon as we do this. Any questions, any comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations and good luck.
Good luck.
I appreciate it.
Good luck.
Actually, I do have a question. The old license, do I just bring it to you guys?
Yeah.
We have to,
Good luck.
okay. I'd like to take action to rescind the Class 2 auto dealer's license for Irving Auto Sales, Irving C. Small, on the premises located at 581 Bedford Street.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Act on the request of Brittany Cavallo and Nicole Gifford to hold a fall carnival at Memorial Field on Saturday, October 30th, 2021, from 8 to 4 p.m.
So moved.
Is anyone here from, and you are,
I'm Brittany and this is Nicole.
you're Brittany and that's Nicole. Okay, hi, thank you. Lincoln, do you want to introduce this? Because this is a little bit complicated.
Sure. So, Ms. Cavallo had made an application, I believe originally to the Department of Public Works, to hold a fall carnival. I think it's fair to say mainly geared towards children on Memorial Field on October 23rd. She went through that process with the Public Works Commissioners. It also went to the Recreation Commission and the Recreation Director. In looking at the field schedule, the Recreation Director asked that they move it to October 30th, which they said would work with it for them, and the Recreation Director issued a permit from their end, the Recreation Commission's end, for the use of the field for that. The details of their proposed, I think if the board would like to know more details of the item itself, it would probably be best if the applicant would like to give that. But in essence, approval to actually hold this fall carnival on October 30th is in the hands of this Board of Selectmen in order for your folks to determine whether or not to allow this event to proceed. Happy to provide any other details. I know there's been some emails back and forth, but that's the high level.
Okay, in other words, the DPW, which granted a permit, really isn't in line to grant permits for...
Yeah, I wouldn't say that the
Functions like this.
Department of Public Works granted a permit. They did go before them, and the Department of Public Works gave their blessing, so to speak. I don't think they would call it a permit. What the Recreation Director did issue, they do in fact call a permit, but it's a permit to use the field, right? It's not a permit to hold the event per se.
Okay, and and it's the selectman's job to grant the permit to hold the event and to make sure that everything that is involved in the event is taken care of.
Absolutely so, yes. So that's certainly the history of how the town of Whitman handles it. Each town does this in different ways. There's lots of different ways to do it, but my understanding of the history with this kind of event in the past in Whitman is that if the event is held in the town park or is desired to be held in the town park, that the Board of Public Works Commissioners will approve it, and that if an event is to be held on town-owned land outside the town park, that the Board of Selectmen would approve it. I don't know all the history there, because it's that we don't have a policy per se that lays that out, but that is the history of how these kinds of events have been approved in the past.
Okay. Did I ask for a motion?
I think we did it, didn't we?
I'll make a motion.
We made a motion to
second.
approve it, and there's a second.
I just have
Okay.
a couple of questions.
Okay,
If the-
discussion.
If the ladies could maybe come up so that folks at home could hear.
waiting to be asked.
It's been a long time since I've been in a meeting like
Could have
this.
just,
Can you just give us a brief idea of what's going to go on there for those hours? And
Right, so
that the DPW was a little concerned originally about the sprinkler system that's over there, so
was not aware of that concern.
that's why you have to be careful what goes on.
Yeah, so originally the game plan was to have like bouncy houses, games, everything free to the public. After speaking to the Recreation Department and having to get a permit and also having to get a rider on our insurance policy in case there was any injuries, which we did provide to the Recreation Department, we scaled that back and we have rented from Busy Bee in Whitman just their carnival games. So there won't be anything that goes up. So it'll it'll just be really lawn games. There won't be any large equipment or big things, tables, chairs, things like that, but nothing that is going to really dig into the ground.
No vehicles or anything like that?
No. We have contracted with a few food trucks that have been approved through the Board of Health. I spoke to Dan Kelly there today about the food trucks that we have contracted with. But the event itself is free to the public. We are going to have a raffle component that all of the proceeds from that will go to the Whitman Food Pantry for the holidays. But other than that, there's no cost to the town or to anybody that's coming.
It's very good.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anyone else have any
I have a
questions?
question. All right, go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, and I have a few. I have a few questions on this. One, I am kind of upset at the process. The DPW commissioners have no authority to grant events like this. Ever since I've been a member of this board, it has been the Board of Selectmen that have granted authority for events and then oversee the logistical agencies making sure everything has been followed. What I will tell you is the rec department received a email from Bruce Martin basically telling them what they had approved, and there was a conflicting date. As far as I know, that permit is not signed by the rec committee. They have not voted on this. And I think for the fact that they have not been able to hold a meeting due to people not being available. I personally have an issue with this because up until right now, there's nothing that we received that said anything about any type of charity being involved in this. It seems like a promotional event to me. And I do absolutely agree that this would be a great event, but I don't know if we're in the promotion for private business, letting town services be used for that. I'm going to be a no vote on this tonight for that reason. I think it runs some possible ethical, I don't know how the State Ethics Commission would view us, a vote on this by us to just a private individual for a promotional event. I have checked the flyers that they've put out, and nothing on the flyers and a Facebook page says anything about any donations going to the Whitman Food Pantry.
If you'd like us to remove that and not do raffles?
I'd like you to remove the whole promotional thing. If you want to run an event, I don't understand why you would believe that the town would offer its services and its fields and it be a cost to our town for a promotional event for your company.
I don't understand how it's a cost to this question.
Okay.
How it's a cost to the town if we are paying for everything and we're renting out a portion of the field. I did a promotional event in June, a movie night that was very successful in the town.
And there was an issue with that, but I think they let it.
The rec department did it right after, so I don't understand the difference between a private entity putting a free event on to the community.
I'm going to answer, if you want to, I'll answer your first question. How is this a cost to the town? You haven't paid a fee to the rec department, correct?
They didn't ask for a fee.
Okay. So there is.
But I did pay a fee to add an insurance rider for the town to my insurance. That was a requirement from the rec department.
Okay, but so here's where the fees come in. You should be paying a fee for rental of.
I have no problem doing that.
Town. There also may be, depending on how many people you have, a safety requirement that we may have to provide detail officers.
And I'm willing to pay for the detail. I've spoken to the police department about that.
Also trash. A large event like this is going to produce trash. We're going to have to send an event like this. Although you might not see it, does cost the town money. Now, I have no problem with an event like this, but I have a problem with an event like this for a promotional reason. Years back, we had Winterfest. That was the Winterfest committee had a giant carnival every summer, and it was the Winterfest committee, and that was a fundraiser to provide,
It was
funding.
put on by a private entity.
No, it was not.
It wasn't? Okay, that was
put on by the
misinformation to me
Winterfest
then.
committee, and it gets confused sometimes, and I think wrongly, that just because the guy chaired it, but at no point was there any self-promotion involved with that. And that's where I have a problem with this. Do I think it can be changed? But I think if we're going to be holding events like this, it can't be exclusive to one business. That if we're going to be holding fall events or any event, one, they shouldn't be competing, our charitable organization shouldn't be competing against private entities. And they should be inclusive to all businesses. I know there's an event at Christmas time where every business is given the opportunity to be a sponsor of that
We have
event.
reached out to multiple businesses in town to offer that. We've offered for them. The church is bringing First Congressional Church. We've talked to them. They're coming and doing an arts and crafts table for free for the community. So we are reaching out to the community to try to. That's what this event is about: is bringing community together, not about just.
But all I see on any of your flyers is your logos for your two companies up there.
Well, today we posted Ritter Country Club donated a gift certificate. We're in process of getting these companies to donate. Once they are donated, we're going to put out a schedule of social media. I put out a local food truck. We put out the Ritter Country Club donated their gift certificate. As it unfolds and the month goes on and people donate, they will be featured as well.
Have you asked any of the restaurants?
Most of them, actually. Some of them have had scheduling conflicts. Some of them will probably donate gift cards for the raffle. We've just been reaching out to Whitman, anyone local in the area. Sion's Landscaping is going to do the pumpkins. Everyone's going to have a part. So it's still in process, too, of reaching out to more and more businesses.
When did you reach out to Ritters?
Last week. Sent them an email and a donation just came in the mail.
I'd much rather see this be linked to a charitable organization, such as Dollars for Scholars, Friends of the Park, Rec Committee. I think we're cutting the legs off those organizations by allowing private business to run promotional events.
If the town would like to join in on it, we are totally for that.
And if there's certain organizations you want to be featured or participating, we are open to a complete list, and we will reach out to them for you.
I have another question.
Dan was.
Oh, you got one?
I was just wondering, what's the private organization that wants to run this?
I own a real estate company, and she works for a mortgage company. I own a business in town. I'm on Washington Street in town.
My company is in Dartmouth, Stonegate Mortgage, but I live in Whitman. I've lived here for 5 years, yeah.
And what you're looking to do is to hold an event to bring something for the kids to do.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like after COVID, if I may speak for a moment.
Right, yeah.
Everybody's looking for things like this. Everyone's missing community. Yes, our company's names are on it, but it's also in the sense of let's all get outside, let's get our families together, let's talk to each other again. I just feel like that component's missing and people are 100% ready for it. I used to be an event planner, actually. So I missed a lot during COVID, that feeling of doing things. I used to do the food truck festivals and the farmers markets in Weymouth, and then I moved to Whitman. And now I'm a Wartsburger, so I'm kind of encompassing all of that, and I just understand how the community needs things like that.
I understand where Randy going, and I understand where you're going. Try and bring something get the kids to do something, and for Halloween and stuff like that. I don't know what the cost is to you. I don't know what that is.
Just to rent the few things that we rented from Busy Bee is over $2,000.
Right, so I mean, you're using town businesses. So the town, they're benefiting because you're using the town businesses. That's a good thing. But I understand where Randy's going. So we may not, I don't know. It's a tough decision.
Here's what I don't. So you've planned things for Weymouth. you know, you didn't go to Weymouth City Hall, or Town Hall?
No, I did. I worked for an event company, though. I wasn't a single business. I worked for a company in a previous job.
Right. I just don't understand why you would keep going to the DPW.
We just took the
So
direction that they gave us.
I actually spoke to Dan Kelly at the Board of Health first. It actually went in front of his board because I thought because of COVID, that was the person that we should talk to about doing events because of the regulations. That's who I spoke to first. From there, he sent me to the DPW because it's the use of the land. At the DPW meeting, we specifically asked if there was someone else that we needed to speak to. It was told no. The only thing we had to do was check with the rec department to make sure there was no games. Okay? If there's something online that could tell us what the protocols are to go to, I would have been here first. It was not meant to circumvent any type of protocol. There's just isn't, it's not user-friendly on the website to say what the protocol is.
I don't think they meant anything by that. I understand where, you know, it's something new, and you're doing something, and so you started with one, and they kept leading you to other departments.
Right. As soon as Lincoln called me last week, I said, okay, what do you need us to do?
Right.
We haven't, this was the first time you guys were meeting since I received the phone call from Lincoln. So.
Yeah, okay, I have a problem.
All right.
A couple of questions. Is your company's gaining anything other than exposure?
No.
No financial
No.
Nothing.
gain by this at all?
No.
Just exposure?
Just exposure. There's no.
Basically, you're another sponsor
Right.
of this, as are Ritters and et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. We're just putting the money up front. If another company wants to come in and pay for pumpkins, they're more than welcome to pay for the pumpkin patch we're going to have and give free pumpkins out to kids. The more the merrier to bring community together. Before I moved to town, one of the big things that they talked about in the town of Whitman was all of the community events that people did back in the day. And I think if anything, in order to do those events, you have to have private enterprise to help.
Financially, right.
Now, are you renting tables to anybody else?
So tables as far as.
Craft tables?
So we
or-
have invited people to have, but they have to be local people, and
They're
we're
not
not
gonna
charging them for
You're
tables.
not charging as a
No,
table like
coming
a flea
free,
market
yeah.
would?
No. The only thing, we did talk to the Whitman Food Pantry. They wanted to come. They wanted to bring a cotton candy machine. So after that conversation with them, trying to include them, we said, well, if we did a raffle, that would benefit them going into the holidays. So that was not something that was on the original thing. However, that's what we thought of after talking to them.
Can I ask a
And-
question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Would it be helpful, I do see, to your point, you've probably looked at the social media so far, and we haven't had the sponsors and the people to commit yet. Would it be helpful if I gave everybody through email a list? And maybe if you want like a social media schedule, like everybody will be featured from now until the event. And we're doing that promotion ourselves during our day, during our regular work schedule.
While running,
Yeah.
running a company
So I can give you a list of
raising
everybody
kids.
that's going to
Send it.
participate and
If you
when they're
send
going
it
to
to
be featured,
Lincoln,
if that would help.
and then he could disseminate it to us,
Yes.
it
Okay.
would be a
No.
lot easier for you.
That is it's a revolving list because as we talk to people, and if we're more than happy to say the companies that don't want to, we went down to
Yeah, who we've reached out
we
to
went
that
down
said
to a
no,
very
so.
prominent business in town and were shunned away, and so we can only do what we can do on trying to invite the public in, whether that be a business or the community.
Yeah. And I have a question for the police chief. If you remember the Halloween car thing that we had at that same field several years back, does this kind of sound the same scenario as far as setup goes, that we didn't have any issues with that?
No, not exactly. That kind of promoted different town events, including the DARE program. That's what it was
Okay. All right.
counted as. So it was actually a town-run event as opposed to
Down
private.
right. Okay, good, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, like I said, I don't have a problem with we're setting a precedent now that even the Spooktacular Car Show was combination of the rec department and Dollars for Scholars. There is always one of our charitable organizations with help from local businesses promoting that way. and we see great success raising money for these entities through that. My fear is we start going down this road, and we're cutting the legs off these people, because the rec committee, Dolls for Scholars, can't compete with the kind of funding that they're throwing into this event.
Would it help you if we work together?
Yes.
We're not
The
asking
rec
you for money.
department's doing their own event in another month, which is fine.
What's that?
The rec department's doing their own event beginning of December, which is quite similar, and we're not trying to compete with them. We would be happy to talk their event up. It's all a matter of doing community together.
Well, there's a matter of doing community, then there's a matter of business promotion.
What's the difference of us giving the money to Dollars for Scholars or giving it to the Whitman Food Pantry?
No, I'm not saying. Where I have a problem with this whole thing is we had years of Winterfest, and you never once knew who the sponsors were.
Well, I do think that they gave out a list of companies that donated things.
It is not a business. We're holding this event. Should private organizations get noticed for their work? Absolutely. And giving to these things. And the event you're talking about for recreation is actually a Christmas event, and if you go up there, you see signs printed of all the...
And we have no problem doing that as well. We're not...
But they're a charitable organization thanking their sponsors. Yeah. They're not a business saying, we included you, this is for our business. And that's where the precedent comes with this, for me. I appreciate the work, but if this is about community, then let's make it about community. We can take your advertising off.
Is the town going to help pay for it?
No, but then it's not. Then it's not about community. Then.
Well, we're using local businesses, and we're using local businesses. I'm going
by your social media page, and there.
But I just spoke on that and said that we don't have all the sponsors yet, and they will be featured.
There's none.
We did one today. That was the first donation we got was today,
then
and it went up today.
It may have came up after I looked at it.
It was posted this afternoon. That's the first donation we got.
Until today, there were none.
It's really hard to continue to get people involved in an event when every time we turn around we have to go in front of another board and we have all of these issues that keep coming up.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, please, Justin.
I thank you for including the raffle and charity component of it. That makes this event start to feel a little bit more like what we saw this past weekend with the 5K and Irish Fest in the center, which was a business-sponsored event, but proceeds going to charity. That makes it a little more palatable. I understand where Randy's coming from, but I do think that your heart's in the right place. You're really trying here, so at least right now I'm supporting this. I would say, Lincoln, it might be worth calling the Ethics Commission just to see if there were any concerns that Randy was alluding to, but nothing jumps out at me right now.
Anyone else have anything they want to say? I think the town had, I think one of the things that I heard this evening that really rings a bell is that our own town website is silent when it comes to the right way to handle a situation like this. People looked for guidance at our town website, didn't get it, went to where they thought they ought to go. They were dealing with COVID first, talked to the Board of Health, went to the Rec Commission, were sent to the DPW, which apparently didn't fully understand its role in any of these processes. The process is a little bit simpler once you start at the beginning. If you start with the Board of Selectmen.
Great, I'm calling you guys anytime from now on. Can I have all your cell phone numbers?
They're gonna regret it.
Well, I don't know. But that's,
I'm kidding.
Seriously, that would have made things different. Because you would have found out things, and we would have found out things too. I would vote for this event right now because you've put work in. You've been kind of misdirected, and part of it is our problem for not being clear enough publicly as to how we would direct someone who has your inclinations and your goodwill, because both of those things are working here. I also understand what Randy is saying, and I know what his fears are. I think what I would do is to you're following the protocols now as you're learning them bit by bit.
Yes.
and we have to take some responsibility for your having to do that. I would have no problem at all with okaying this event at this time. You've already put a lot of work in. It sounds like it's going to be a nice event. There'll be some more information coming from you guys.
We
and
will
then
keep you
and then
guys
I
updated.
think though, then we need to kind of put a hold on it after we do this one event and get our own act together. We have to get our own act together, and Randy's come up with an issue that has to be dealt with. Talking to the Ethics Commission is one thing. Maybe Randy, maybe you and Lincoln or you and somebody else can work on some sort of procedures that will come before the board, and then we will get it on our website. And our website is difficult to deal with. I often look for information about COVID on our website, and I, for the life of me, never get there, never find it. And if it weren't for Chief Clancy's sending his emails once a week, I'd feel kind of lost. We need that. Town website needs work, and you know that because you've been working on it. And it's not just the appearance of the website, it's how easy it is to get the information that you need. It's not easy. It's not easy to do that. But anyway, that's my take on it right now, is that I think we should approve this. I think the next item on the agenda is to discuss authorization of requests to hold events on town property. I think we need to continue that. We've had some of that discussion tonight, and this discussion has brought up some things that need to be brought up, and I think we need to go forward and do some work. But as far as this particular request, I see nothing good in rejecting this request. Nothing at all. I see nothing but good in approving it.
Could I suggest that we make this motion pursuant to approval by the Ethics Commission that you're going to try to get, and that should come in a pretty quick fashion, I would assume.
It could, yeah. And I do think the Ethics Commission doesn't have a policy of approving something per se, but certainly we can get an answer from the lawyer of the day at the Ethics Commission as to whether or not this is problematic. But they wouldn't be approving it per se. And one other thing that I think the board could consider is, I was under the understanding before an email from our health inspector earlier today that there were 3 food trucks, of which one is already fully permitted by our health department, including insurance certificates. One, our health inspector went out and inspected today. One was not yet inspected, and I understand now that there are 5. So what I would suggest in total, what I'd suggest is that the board could also, provide approval for this event. With the caveat that these 5 food trucks be fully permitted through the Board of Health, or, if they're not permitted, then those food trucks don't participate.
Well, they're not going to.
100%. So just to speak to that for a moment, it's 4 food trucks. That's okay, but there is another food woman coming. She is a home baker here in town. She lives on Rainer Ave. That's where she runs her bakery out of. I saw her at another event, and that's why I invited her, because she is local to town. So I did receive an email later on from Dan Kelly this afternoon that Smiles by the Miles, a food truck, an ice cream truck. One of the food trucks was good, and then this lady, because she already has everything done through town, is ready to go. So we're waiting on 2 more, and we are perfectly fine. If you don't have what you're supposed to have to run a food truck, you are not allowed to be at an event.
So the 5 Smiles by the Miles, Casey's Curbside Bistro, Fork and Bib Food Truck, The Sausage Guy, and Sweet Standards?
Sweet Standards is the bakery lady. Thank you. I didn't remember her name off the top of my head.
I don't think I'd make a contingent on you're talking to the Ethics Commission. I would take a chance and let this one go. I don't see it. I don't see it.
If they tell us to stop, we can rescind it at our next meeting, which I don't see happening, but.
Only reason I've made that is if we could get an expedited answer, because, I mean, you are putting in a lot of work on this.
That's what I was going to say. I don't know how
there
long.
is-
They have put in a lot of work, and they're continuing to put in a lot of work. And
And
what you're
time
doing
is
is
of
you're
the
saying,
essence.
no, we give you a yes, but maybe it's not a yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, under
it's
what
not
you
right
just said,
either.
if we just
What?
say yes,
Maybe it's not right either. So you
Well, yeah, there's that, but I don't think.
There's that. So I'm actually going to make a motion that not only for approval of this event.
We have a motion on the floor.
I didn't actually make a motion, I just made this.
No, we have a motion and a second, right?
Yeah,
Oh, to just
starting the
approve.
conversation, yeah.
And you furthered the conversation saying you'd like to add. So actually, you're offering an amendment to that. Are you withdrawing the amendment?
I will withdraw and let,
Okay.
Who made the motion?
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
I don't know. I think it might have been Dan.
Might have been Dan. With a motion on the floor, we could just amend the motion.
Make a motion to amend that this is subject to approval of not only a ruling from ethics from the lawyer of the day, but from our own town council, which will be quick enough to get, that we are not putting ourselves in any limbo here. Because just to be clear what you're doing, you're allowing a private business for at this time, by their own advertisements, for strictly promotion, to use municipal services. I have a problem with that.
Okay, there's an amendment on the floor. Does anyone want to speak to the amendment?
I do. I think that in the past, didn't we have dance studios put on shows in the town hall, the big hall? And that was by a private company. And they rented the hall. And we just, whatever approvals had to be approved, those went on. So I can't tell you what year that was, but.
Well, I mean, they do it at the school.
Yeah.
Are we renting the field now?
Well, do we charge for events, sporting events to be there? I don't know that.
The rec committee does.
We do.
They charge for baseball teams, and AAU teams are paying a fee. The problem I have with it is this, from not coming to the board, we're now chasing to the food truck. Are they properly licensed? Who's going to be there for vendors? Right from the start, the process has run afoul. And this is why I disagree, Carl, that there's a problem with our website, because this is the first problem, that the DPW, for one company, keeps saying they can have events. We've never had this problem before. We look at the most recent event in town. That gentleman comes to us, tells us exactly that all proceeds will be going to X charity. He gets approval, and then he goes. So the process is not as construed as we're trying to make it out tonight.
Well, I think it is. The people went to the Board of Health. The Board of Health. They gave them some advice. Went to the Rec Commission. They gave them some advice. Ended up with the DPW, who acted in the way they acted.
I'm sorry to think that somebody who ran a food truck down at Food Truck Rodeo goes to the DPW, knew how to run that,
Excuse
but
me.
goes to the DPW for
I didn't
approval.
say that I ran, I said I managed them. I had a boss who did that part of the thing. I was just the manager. I'm saying I've run these before. I understand what the component is with the Board of Health. I understand what the insurance is. I didn't say that I went through the actual process myself of getting them approved. So there was no slight backdoor situation happening. We innocently went through the process that we thought we should.
I clearly don't think there's any ill intent here. I think it's a community event that we're beating to death. And I think if we just get those two comments between ethics and our council, I think we could be done with this. I think if we approve this pending those two, boom, you might have that in a day.
I was like, how long will that take? Because I would hate to keep advertising this to sponsors and have them, and then have to send it back because the town.
Couple days.
Okay.
Would that be realistic?
Yeah, you would receive that by Thursday.
Okay.
Fantastic.
So, 'cause
That would
I'd hate to see it work more, and then
Right.
if we have to cancel it, so.
Right.
And it would, I just like to expedite it, and
I appreciate that.
From past experience, it's easier to call ethics than fill out the form online. I'm sure you know as well.
Absolutely.
yeah, no doubt.
So they'll have an answer by Thursday if we vote yes on this amendment?
They should, yes.
For sure.
And I understand Randy's wanting to protect the town, because I think that's what we're here for. And but we also have to consider people stepping forward to do good things for the town coming out of COVID. And so we're like this, and we have to be like that. So that's why I think these two approvals are a good idea.
Okay, are there any other comments on Randy's amendment? Was that seconded? Somebody seconded?
I'll second it.
Okay. Anybody? Okay. All those in favor of Randy's amendment?
We'll go with it, so.
Okay, so it passes.
And then
The motion as a whole. The motion is to grant the permission, which you would have probably gotten easier had you been able to come here first. But I still think we have to take some
We'll know
responsibility
that
for
for
that.
next time.
We have to take some responsibility for being unclear.
Yeah.
It should be easier for a citizen who wants to do something good for the town and their business at the same time, but basically to do something good for the town and not be able to find out how to go about doing it, or whether it's okay to do it. It should be easier to find out.
Carl, another thing, when Brian and I, when this building was 100 years old, remember we did
Yeah.
the same?
Yep.
It's a learning process.
It was.
We held events every month. So same thing, when Winterfest started, it was a learning process. It's like anything else. It's a learning process. So there's no real intent. I think what you're trying to do is a good thing to bring the community together. This is just checks and balances, as Randy's putting out, to make sure that we're not.
There's no ill intent, there's
Right.
different objectives.
Right.
And that's what I have a problem with.
Yeah. But my question is, haven't we had things in the past where certain businesses in town have put on an event and they have benefited, even though somebody else benefited, they benefited by sales of food and alcohol?
there was a proposed soccer watch party in the center not too long ago that didn't happen because they didn't make it to the finals. But
And this weekend, there was something at the VFW, a huge event my wife and I went to.
The craft fair.
The craft fairs, and I don't know who benefited that.
Well, it's
from
a
that.
private.
Huh?
Yeah.
Private entity.
I think that was to benefit the
Right.
If they
VFW.
came to us and wanted to hold a fall festival in their office, we wouldn't be stopping them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it's town property.
Yes.
Okay, I don't see anything else coming out of this group. We're ready to vote on the main motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, you
So
have to,
we're good to go forward as
Good
long
to
as we
go.
touch base with Lincoln on
Thursday.
town council and ethics from
We
the
will-
state.
Tomorrow.
We will, we'll talk tomorrow or Thursday, just depending on when we can get an answer from the state ethics.
and I would
Commission.
really
Sounds
try hard to
great.
do it by tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you guys.
Would you
Thank
guys, anyone, I don't know who, like a list of sponsors that end up coming forward and how we're going to feature
We'll
them?
send everything.
Sounds like it.
So, and I'll certainly forward along to the board.
See the
Oh,
article
sounds
in-
great.
in
Thank you,
Facebook.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Flyer?
Yeah, they have a whole page.
Yeah, they have a homepage? I don't know.
Act on the resignation of James Chandler from the position of member of the Economic Development Committee, Board of Appeals Rep, effective September 9th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Set the October meeting schedule. Anybody have any thoughts?
I am unavailable on the 19th.
You're what?
Unavailable on the 19th.
Okay, that was one of the choices. And I understand the week before that doesn't work for some reason. The 5th is just next week. I was thinking we probably didn't need to have a meeting next week, that the next meeting could be on the 19th.
Oh, 19th, I'll be in Myrtle Beach.
So two guys will
We'll
be
be
gone.
done too.
And what was wrong with the 12th? There was something wrong with the 12th?
Is something wrong with the 12th?
I don't believe so, not from
Oh.
my perspective.
12th is all right.
It is.
Okay.
I might be coming from Springfield, but I can make it.
Okay. Let me
Oh,
just,
pardon me. Certainly, you folks, obviously the board can meet when it likes. The one item that we do want to, amongst others, but the probably one that we do want to deal with expeditiously is having the consultant, Jim Fitzgerald, to come and speak about the downtown intersection and the plans that are pending for that with the state grant.
Yes.
So if you were to meet with him in October, the one Tuesday that he is not available is October 12th.
okay, that's
Well,
right.
the
So-
26th. What if we do the 12th and 26th? 2 meetings in October. Can't do it the 2nd, the voting day.
That's November.
I mean, the following Tuesday, which is, right.
12/26.
And I just want to point out, in addition, later on when we're talking about the strategic planning,
Yep. We have a meeting on the 23rd.
we have a meeting that would be, at this moment, planned for October 23rd, Saturday.
Right. I think it'd be good to meet before that. So why don't we do the 12th then? 12th and 26th, and maybe that guy can come on the 26th.
Yeah, and we could schedule him on the 26th.
Yeah.
Was there a concern from the DPW about getting him in sooner? Or
There is not currently. There was originally, but there's not currently because we got a reprieve from the state because of supply issues with granite curbing. So while we certainly want to do it soon, if we get it done in October, that's fine.
Okay, so 12th and 26th?
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just briefly on the, I thought in addition to the item for the Fall Carnival, I know we had the other agenda item about discuss approval authorization of request to hold. Just to briefly touch on that, I think in terms of making sure, so obviously there's a past practice that we followed as far as the Board of, when there's an event not on the town park, that the applicant was expected to come first to the Board of Selectmen.
Well, I'm not even clear why the DPW owns the town park either. I mean, this is, as you say, this is the history, is that we deal with all the other things, and for some reason, the DPW grants permission to do things in the town park. I think maybe that whole area has to be looked at.
And to that point, and that's why I wanted...
The whole area of who grants permission to use town facilities, and what kind of protocols people have to go through if they would like to. Whether it be a charitable group or whether it be a group like the two women that were here tonight. Yeah, I think, Randy, are you willing to work on that?
I am, yeah. I mean, clearly Fields is determined already by bylaw, I believe, that it comes under the rec committee. There seems to be some confusion that went on early on between, and I think you were there for this, Lincoln, between the DPW and rec and one of the youth sports organizations. And what we've determined is DPW maintains the fields. Therefore, if maintenance requires something extra, they will be duly compensated for that, and I think that got worked out. As far as this all of a sudden scheduling of events,
Where did that come from? Yeah. So it came from because they were directed there.
no, they went there first. It started with the movie night. That's where they went first. I don't want to talk about them if they're not here, but I do have a back history to it. And then returned there.
Okay, the whole thing is a mess then. So why, we need to be clear.
So that's what I wanted to propose, was that the way, in my mind, to solve this, and so we have this past history, but it's not written down.
Right.
So the way, in my mind, to solve this, and what I would like to strongly recommend to the board, is that there be a written policy that lays out exactly what the process is, particularly with respect to independent boards and commissions, and maybe perhaps especially with respect to independently elected boards and commissions, so that policy, the Board of Selectmen is the policy-making board for the town. It's your role to lay out a policy and procedure, to be very specific. And so if the past practice is not being followed, the way to make sure that the process that this board wants to be followed is to have a draft policy that I'm happy to draft up, with Randy's help or whomever's.
Right, you just came up with a new goal.
I did. I did. And have that draft policy, bring it back to the board, and then have it be very clear on our new website what that process is. But that's what I would suggest is, and so if that's what the board would like, I'm happy to work on drafting that.
And I'm 100% with you, but I also think what we need to keep in mind, and this did come up in the discussion, is how is this a cost to the town? Well, it is a cost to the town. Some of these events, we do see police, fire out there.
The organization has to pay for the detail. Right?
I think that may need to be clarified.
Then that can be part of this.
And, this is where I think we're getting into a fine line, is it's one thing that the town is partnering with our charitable organizations by providing emergency service and cleanup, et cetera. But should a private organization for promotion be picking that expense up?
I have a question. I'm just trying to get this wrapped up in my beanbag. So if the DPW is in charge of maintenance of these fields, the Rec Commission is in charge of scheduling these fields, then wouldn't we be in charge of everything else? About approving, determining if it's what is in the framework of what we as a town want to have.
You would be,
et cetera,
you would be explicitly if we have a policy that says so. Yes.
Well, I guess maybe that's a suggestion.
And to be clear, this is not a
in writing.
This is not a challenge unique to Whitman.
Yeah.
Many communities have discussions and challenges about use of town property and specifically fields. And the way to resolve it, in my mind, with a strong recommendation, is to have that policy, and then we follow that policy.
And it might be good for us to include both chiefs, because they might have issues that we might not think of, and going forward. It just might, if we could include them in the sphere of the whole thing.
Well, yeah, Randy has just agreed to involve himself in taking care of this with Lincoln. I don't think we have to tell them who they have to go to.
No, I'm merely making suggestions.
I mean, I think they can probably figure that out themselves.
If you trust, I'll charge ahead.
Okay, you have a goal and an assignment, and Randy has some objectives. Who got you all wound up today?
I've got a haircut.
That's what it is. Town Administrator's Report, COVID-19 update.
Yes.
Didn't you give that copy?
Well, no, we didn't. We gave a commercial, but we didn't give an update.
So, as you said, Mr. Chairman, and Chief Clancy is here tonight, he's been providing the board with a great update on a weekly basis as to where we are with positivity. As you said, we have 52 new cases out of 1,220 tests administered as of last Thursday. Our positivity rate has stayed the same. As far as vaccine numbers go, I was taking another look at that today and seeing how we are doing as a town for those 12 and over who are eligible to receive the vaccine. vaccinating since the last time reported to the Board of Selectmen meeting 3 weeks ago. So we, across all age groups except those 75 and plus, across all age groups 12 to 74, the fully vaccinated rate did rise in the last 3 weeks prior to this past Thursday. Not by a lot, but across each and every age group it did rise.
What's the percentage, the total percentage?
We're now at 57% fully vaccinated.
7? That's still not high.
Not high.
Yeah.
No.
And why do they cut it off at 74? What is it with people 75 just don't, over 74 don't count?
No. So they, to be clear, they track all groups 12 to 105,
Yeah.
right?
Oh.
110.
All right.
But I was just saying that is the only group that did not see a rise over the last
I see.
over the 3 weeks. All other groups did have a rise in the period.
Over 75, no rise, so take your mask off.
Rise in vaccination.
That's the silly remark.
I couldn't resist.
Yeah,
We're the only ones that are over 75.
you can not follow the advice of our Board of Health. It's on the front door. It's okay, Dan. It's fine. Go ahead.
And so to that point, folks probably have seen around town, maybe most obviously on our message board at the front, but also through other medium, the urging and in conjunction with our Board of Health to, for those who are eligible to be vaccinated, to get fully vaccinated. I'd like to think that hopefully the outreach effort has had some effect, over the prior 3.5 weeks in vaccinations. So that's been going on. In addition, I think most residents know from reading the news that there is a Pfizer vaccine booster that is approved for those 65 and older and who are eligible in some other way because of occupation and et cetera. The towns, all of the shots that the town provided to residents and have access to now is Moderna. And so the Food and Drug Administration has not approved any kind of booster third shot program for Moderna. Certainly, the chief has been working hard in conjunction with the Board of Health folks and everything. So if the FDA does say that that's appropriate, we'll certainly be ready. But as of right now, as far as boosters go, because we have access to Moderna and that's who we originally vaccinated, we're wait and see on the booster piece. Also, we had the conversations earlier about the vaccine mandates that are under consideration amongst various levels of government and in private enterprise as well. As this board knows, there was an Occupational Safety and Health Administration mandate that has not been issued officially yet. We know it's coming. That will certainly apply to private businesses with 100 or more employees. What's not clear, and we really won't know until certainly at least until this vaccine mandate actually exists from OSHA, as to whether or not it may or may not apply to public employers, municipalities in Massachusetts. Did speak with town council last week, and in her words, as of 1:30 p.m. today on Thursday, no, it doesn't apply, but stay tuned. So it's certainly a moving target. Again, that OSHA guidance doesn't even exist yet. So wait and see. I think certainly what most municipal employers seem to be doing in being in contact with colleagues across the state, and particularly in the South Shore, is to wait and see what happens with the state vaccination mandate. The state vaccination mandate for state employees is coming up very soon. It's obviously the subject of at least one lawsuit. So that seems to be what the tack that most municipalities are taking, is to wait and see where that process goes legally with the state vaccination mandate. And then finally, this morning, as the board knows, throughout the pandemic, the board's been choosing to follow the Board of Health's advice with respect to COVID-19 issues. This morning, the Board of Health did take a vote to make a recommendation as far as that goes. Their recommendation was that in 2 meeting rooms at Town Hall, this one and the basement meeting room, that for public meetings that are going on of whichever board or committee or commission, that there be a capacity limit on those meetings, and that be the members of the board in question, any relevant staff, and no more than 8 members of the public. So that is their recommendation, not their requirement, but their recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, that that is a capacity limit that they would like to see. I did speak with Town Council today, and you do have the authority to put that in place. I'm happy to give some further thoughts on it if the board, desires about how you might want to approach that. But that is the latest recommendation from the Board of Health.
Okay, well, the board could make a motion to go along with the recommendation of the Board of Health, if it wishes.
I have a question first.
Yeah.
If I could.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question too.
Where did the 8-person limit come from? Do you know? Or
I do not know. No. It was from the motion from one of the members, and it was passed. Originally the capacity limits when they existed from the governor and the State Department of Health were 25. I don't know where the 8 came from.
Does it depend on the size of the room? Because 25 can be an awful lot of people in a small room.
Agreed. I can't. Oh, as far as the 25 capacity, I mean, I'm not sure where the DPH came up with that.
Right.
Presumably
they
based
come up
on
with
some
8?
science.
Was there a rationale?
Chairs.
Pardon?
We'll have to get rid of some chairs.
Well, no, actually, yeah, we did get rid of some chairs.
well, we
more than
exceeded 8 today.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I could, I think administratively, administering this would be difficult because while the town may, then the Board of Selectmen may have the authority to say no more than 8 members of the public. I think the reality is I'm not sure how we would enforce that, absent having a police officer perhaps say, no, you're the 9th person, you can't come into this meeting. My friendly suggestion is if the capacity limit piece is something that the Board of Selectmen would want to consider, is until April there is still the ability to meet remotely. According to the state law, so that's one possibility. Individual members can join remotely again until April if they so choose. So I do think it would be hard administratively to implement this when we had an interest in a meeting, and I'm not sure how well the implementation of it would work. So. That's my 2 cents.
The spirit of it makes some sense to me, to limit the capacity in certain rooms. I wonder why the lower room and this room were chosen. The Finance Committee meets down the hall in a room that's about half the size of this, or a third of the size of this, and there are 9 members on the Finance Committee. They have school committee people, they have police, the fire, they all come in. They're packed in like sardines. Why? I would like to I'd like you to find out from the Board of Health, how did the Finance Committee room escape?
I'll attempt to get that guidance.
Escape the limit. The kinds of meetings that go on downstairs, like zoning meetings and that, they can attract a lot of people. If
Planning board,
the planning board, if things are going on that deals with the neighborhood. So I understand the spirit of worrying about capacities, but the logic frankly escapes me.
Just a few things. If anybody's watched football this past few weeks, 60,000 of your closest friends are sitting side by side. And I rarely see any masks out there. I'm not
which
condoning
doesn't make it right.
Right. But I'm just making observations, and if you've looked on the news in the last 6 months, it seems like every school board across the country is having outrageous scenes of chaos, and it's all over masks. I'd hate to see us go down that road. I appreciate the Board of Health, and we've worked very closely with them through this pandemic, and I appreciate everything they do.
Well, if you had a dime for every time we said we go along with the Board of Health,
Well, we do.
we'd have enough money to fund the carnival.
The electric pole, probably.
Yeah.
But
But this one was.
yeah, it's a little random to me, and
Well, it's random because it doesn't make internal sense. It doesn't make logical sense.
and I'm typically not a mandate kind of a person. I think it's personal responsibility, and I think as we get higher vaccination rates and people who have got the virus have some immunity as well, I would like to maybe ask more questions of the Board of Health on why they came to that number.
Well, maybe we could ask for representatives from the Board of Health to come to our next meeting and to talk about the rationale behind that. Maybe they can enlighten us. Randy.
All right, let me see how I want to phrase this. I don't. This is the problem I've had with how this has been handled all along. We have no change in our positivity percentage, but now we start enforcing stronger restrictions. Why? There's no
Well, our positivity percentage is not a low percentage, Randy.
Well, if you spread it out through 14,000 people, it's 0.004. I don't want to argue.
It's 4.26, right?
Of the 1,000 that were tested.
Yeah, 4.26. Yeah,
Out
you're
of
right. You're right.
1,200 people, out of 14,000 residents, it's 0.005. I don't think we need to argue each other's personal feelings or personal comfort levels on this board regarding the pandemic. CDC, yeah, you refer to that sign on the door, recommends wearing masks. They also recommend getting vaccinations, which 47% of our town is not doing. Okay, so this is not going anywhere, and I'm not wearing a mask tonight. I know there's a member of our board that absolutely has some concerns, and why I'm not wearing a mask tonight is because I don't wear one outside of this, so I cannot put a mask on for theater of this meeting, and that's what I would be doing. But that is my comfort level with the vaccine. I certainly didn't have my 15-year-old daughter vaccinated to wear a face diaper. It is your comfort level. We got her vaccinated to get back to business as usual. And I am for vaccination mandates, but I would never vote for it. Do I want to see as many people vaccinated as possible? But I cannot say to somebody. So I think with this recommendation this evening by the Board of Health, you know what? Until somebody tells us, until the CDC comes down and says everybody must wear a mask again, until our governor comes down and says everybody, or until the governor starts imposing restrictions again on, then that's what we should be going by. Because there's people that are a lot smarter than us, and this is their job, 24/7, 365. So to start, I'm frustrated by this, finding out tonight, because why? Last week we could meet with, and the percentage did not change. So why are we putting more restrictions on people? For me, the mask is I feel is being used as not a tool, but a pressure point right now. To get people vaccinated. And throughout the history of our country, there has never been a good idea that's had to be forced on people. We need to incentivize vaccinations, because if you believe in it, that's what you know gets you out of it. And comfort levels, everyone from now probably to the next 3 years is going to have to decide their own comfort level, unfortunately, during this pandemic. But that's my rant, and I'm sorry.
I agree.
Yep. I don't. But that's me.
That's America.
That's me. I know that we were all compelled, I remember when I was 10 years old, to get a polio shot.
Yep.
We were all compelled to get polio shots. Where's polio today? Nowhere. Nowhere. Almost nowhere.
After we get the
But I
shot, we
don't
get masks.
want to get into a thing here. What we were talking about was the recommendation of the Board of Health to limit the capacity in this room and the room downstairs. I think we need to hear from them their rationale. Not that it's going to. Maybe we don't have to hear their rationale, because what difference does it make? I don't know. Yes, Justin.
I just think, yeah, the Board of Health all along has been in step with with DPH and the CDC. Here they kind of seem out of sync, particularly when you look at schools packing kids in 3 feet apart, although wearing masks, 30 to a classroom. So I just don't understand the rationale here and where it diverges from other public health guidance.
No, it just seems kind of random. So if they could come and explain why they did it, it might help.
Yeah.
But I certainly wouldn't recommend to our group that we say we vote to do this.
As opposed to having them come in, maybe they could just
Write us a letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's easy enough.
Because
That'll be all right.
when it comes to capacity restrictions, my vote would come if they're coming from the state. And like you said, Justin, there's kids in school right now, and I'm not seeing many distance and capacity restrictions on the CDC right now either. So unfortunately, I guess at some point, I think we all saw this coming, that we would eventually have to.
Even the CDC has an internal struggle. At least 2 of their prominent people resigned over the recommendations. So I mean, they are not 100% in voting. So.
Why don't we go to the update on the Whitman Middle School project?
It even gets spicier then.
So, from my perspective,
That's right.
it's a pretty relatively brief update, but just to continue to keep the board updated and whomever's watching at home, which is a week ago today, the Whitman Middle School Building Committee approved a new, second, but final request for services for an owner's project manager for a possible middle school project. That request for services, RFS, is being posted in the Central Register tomorrow with a deadline of October 13th for responses. There'll be a subcommittee of the Whitman Middle School Building Committee to evaluate those, and then and then a final selection of the full committee, the full middle school building committee, to be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority on November 3rd. And then, as the board may recall, the Massachusetts School Building Committee itself needs to review that final decision of who the owner's project manager would be from the Middle School Building Committee. And so we would be anticipating an execution of a contract with an owner's project manager to be moving forward on the project and creating recommendations for what an eventual new middle school or renovated middle school would look like, its size and the size of the project coming in the new year in January. So certainly, Selectman LaMattina and I both serve on that. I'm not sure if I don't know if there's anything else he wants to add, but I just wanted to keep the board updated as to the process.
Just briefly, and for anyone who would watch that meeting, I'm going to offer a quick apology because I misspoke in the middle school building committee over how the feasibility project was going to get funded. I think what happened was, again, this was during the height of COVID. We were not meeting. Finance Committee made a recommendation to sway away from use of free cash that we went to borrowing. But that being said, myself and Lincoln had a meeting with the business manager and Superintendent Simonak, and we've worked it out. It's going to be the bond as what the town voted on. Unfortunately, that evening I just misspoke, but I wasn't the only one in the room who also felt the same way. But it has been corrected, so if anybody is watching this meeting, we're all set, we're good to go. Funding for the feasibility study, not an issue.
Thank you, Randy. Okay, MGL, 40R and 40S
Yes,
Planning
again.
Board discussion.
Yes, again, just a brief update. So if the board recalls, this was the discussion we had regarding the carrot and stick of state laws and possibly having the possibility of having denser zoning around downtown, our downtown area and commuter rail station. The board recalls the board wanted to get some feedback from the planning board. The planning board has discussed it at 2 meetings now, including one where Selectman Evans and I both attended 2 weeks ago, that I think was helpful for them. They said in further clarifying the issue, they want to continue to discuss it before they hopefully provide a recommendation per the Board of Selectmen's request. It's on their agenda. It was on their agenda again this evening for their meeting, but just wanted the board to know that the planning board is considering that matter.
Anybody have any questions of Lincoln? Okay, strategic planning. Moving
Yes.
right along.
So earlier we set our full day meeting with the Whitman members of the regional school committee and department heads who are able to attend. So we'll certainly get that now that that's been decided that we do in fact want to have that Saturday meeting, working group meeting to evaluate values for the town and then work towards a mission statement that we know that that's going to be on October 23rd. I'll be working with our strategic planning consultant to set up that meeting, get that agenda ready, making sure that folks are, those 3 groups are invited. The other thing that discussed with Chairman Kowalski was having some slots available for members of the public. So now that we know that date, we can get that up on the website and solicit members of the public who may be interested in participating and going from there.
Is there a time for that?
It would be from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
So
October
it will
23rd.
include some refreshments.
And refreshments will be included, yes, definitely.
Yes. And the main, I think, to be clear too, the main focus for citizen participation in this, probably set up in a room with tables of small groups, would be to derive a mission statement for the town, which is based upon a series of values that the people there come up with, probably based largely, I imagine, on the survey that we did a few years ago, but it's a few years since then, too. So that things could be changed. But I think what we need primarily from the citizens is a sense of what kind of town they want and what would be the mission of a town that has a certain set of values. And that'll be valuable, very valuable information for us to have. And then it's for our department heads, for our committees to then work on goals and objectives that somehow help us to accomplish that mission and to display those values. So this is like there's two sides of it. There's the theoretical side and the practical side.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Randy. Yes, Randy.
So, wait a minute. So the department heads are now coming to the school meeting?
I think so, but Lincoln knows more about the way it's being set up.
We can do it either way.
All right, so I'm just going to come out and say it, and I know I've actually told you this, Carl. I think having citizen participation in the school meeting part of it is going to be counterproductive. That, for me, I thought it was going to be the final.
Oh, that's maybe what I was getting at when I said that the prime value of having citizen input is not into operational stuff, but it's into fashioning a mission statement and a value statement.
I think we need to, rather than fashioning statements, get down to reality.
Reality has to be based upon something.
Right, but I think we've done we know that the school has now established their core goals over the summer, right? They have so it's the how do we get there now? For me, I think we're done gathering information. I think it's time to put some reality to the project, and I think I would actually say that and I've been thinking about this, how can we actually go to the school district with just the Whitman members and the superintendent and say, this is how we're going to get there? I actually think it would be a great idea if we had Hanson there. Get their selectmen, get their school committee, and let's have this meeting that we probably all should have had a while ago. And maybe they gather some information for their strategic plan, but...
That was weird.
Okay?
I'm good.
There's a sign.
Melting.
My God.
Caught that out of my peripheral.
It's a sign from God, I'm telling you.
He likes my plan.
Yeah.
No, he was telling you to shut up. Is what he was telling you.
If not, I'm just afraid we go into another meeting that it's kind of like going to the game without half your players. How do we make the plan for the school?
Well, we don't make the plan for the school.
How do we make Whitman's plan for paying for the school?
Well,
without the right side of the line. And I'm a little partial to the left, Brian. So, so I don't. It's something to think about, and I would ask Ann Donner if she's ever dealt with a regional school district
right.
trying to. Just my thoughts.
That has its own committee that comes up with its own plan.
Right. So
is it how do we fit into theirs, or how do they fit into ours?
How do we make theirs and ours work together?
Exactly.
And if we're doing, the last thing I want to see out of this process is that we don't have. Yeah, we've talked and we've gotten on the same page, but we're still not getting there. Especially taking a Saturday with everybody in the room. I just think, how do you make the plan if you don't have everyone involved? So something to think about.
I think it would be helpful, and certainly I can ask Ann Donner her opinion. She hasn't dealt with a regional school district before. I know that. So I suspect it would be helpful. I think it's not a big point, but I think it would be helpful to get some direction from the board as to who the board wants there. Her original thoughts were including the Board of Selectmen, the Whitman members of the school committee, department heads, and some number, not a huge number, but some number of interested members of the public. But certainly, we could invite the other members of the school committee, but I don't think there's a right answer here, and it would be great to have the direction of the board, and we can make sure that the right people are there and invited. I'll ask Ann Donner, but I suspect she may not have a solid answer, just for being frank.
It might be good to hear from Ann Donner in person, maybe on the 12th, a couple of weeks before the meeting, a couple of weeks before the 23rd meeting. Yeah. And I think, she might clear up some of what our conceptions are.
Yeah, I think if we can
Because
hear
she's
some
been
of
through
her
this.
feedback that
Yeah.
she's getting.
Yeah.
And in the interim, unless there's an objection, I'll proceed with, I want to make sure that, these folks know when it is and are invited officially. So in the interim, if it works for the board, I'll make sure that obviously the board members, the Whitman members of the school committee, department heads, and, have that communication out there and have some number of the public invited, and then we can have this decision about the Hanson members. Is that the board's will? I just want to make sure that the folks who we definitely want there know about it and are invited officially before the October 12th. That's all. Yeah. If possible.
Yeah, it'd be good to hear from Ann. That the schools, sometimes we don't consider the schools as a town department. In a way they are, though. They're the largest department. On the other hand, we partner with Hanson in dealing with that department. We have our police department, we have our fire department, we have our various committees, like the rec committee, like the Department of Health and all that. We have the DPW. They're all major concerns for us too, as we fashion a mission and a mission for this town. It's almost like it's possible that down the road, the way that we have, the only way we can really plan this is to somehow separate, have another thing going on with the schools themselves. The schools themselves need some oversight that I'm not sure that the school committee itself is giving them. And I think there's got to be a way for the people in our town and the people from the schools to get together, and that is going to be in some ways separate from that other process, because we have all these other things to worry about with the other process, the other departments. Schools have to be involved in it, but maybe there's got to be another activity involved as far as the schools are concerned. I'd like to hear what Ann has to say about that too. We're ready to go on to the security cameras in the park?
Yes, thank you. So, this issue came up, certainly it was at the request of the Department of Public Works commissioners, certainly a few members of this board. I've certainly heard from several members of the public from spring through the late summer regarding incidents in the park of vandalism, primarily vandalism and fighting. Kids fighting. I know the discussion's been had out there before regarding whether or not security cameras make sense in the park. Internally had a meeting, not of staff, not to discuss whether or not to have cameras, but to make sure that we knew if we were to do that, how we would do it, how much it would cost, and is there in fact a rise in incidents in the park from previous years? The answers to those questions are, there has been a little bit of an uptick this year. I know in speaking with Chief Hamlin, in comparison with last year, it was probably lower last year because of the pandemic, perhaps. There has been a uptick in vandalism and kids fighting in the park this summer. The plan, in speaking with Josh McNeil, our IT director, as well, would be to have 5 cameras. In doing some just very preliminary pricing out as to what that would cost, would be approximately $45,000. There is no funding source for that. There is no funding source that's sufficient for that. So I think I wanted to bring it to the board. Obviously, it's been a subject of conversation, both from board members and then in the public, and as I said, the Department of Public Works commissioners, and just wanted to get a sense, not necessarily tonight, but within, maybe by your next meeting, if possible, is this something the board wants to pursue? And if the answer to that is yes, I'd want to know in order to include it on the capital plan so that we can fund it. So just to sort of get a sense of, is this something that the town from a policy perspective wants to pursue or not? And obviously, happy to answer any questions, collect more data if anyone wants it, et cetera.
Yeah, that could be something we could talk about some more later on down the line. It's not an easy issue.
I do have an observation about, if I may. There was an incident the last few days, that, disgusting incident. That I'm not going to say here, but I've been a proponent of this, as I think Dan has, for quite some time. This is not a new idea that we've bandied around over the years, and I think it's nowadays there's cameras everywhere. We've made significant investments to the upgrades in that park, with the lights and the roadways and the, with June O'Leary and her group, Friends of the Park. The DPW has made done a lot of work there, and those benches get vandalized all the time. This recent event was at the playground, and I just think it's time. I think we have to find a way, and I would suggest more than 5. I just think it's necessary, but that's just my opinion on it. I think it's absolutely necessary. You can't go anywhere in public now without having the cameras on you. So I'm all for it. You think we have to find the funds for this somehow, and it's a technology age here now, and I think to preserve the park, we need them. And the one question I have is, we're on the historical register for that park, so we have to be careful how we go about those improvements.
Yeah, if I may. Yeah, we talked about that at the meeting, where we would put them. It wouldn't affect the historical aspects of the park. But I agree. We start out with 5. I think maybe we go more. We look at it. The police chief, they know the areas in which the highest incidence factors will happen. And I don't know, I really don't want to start saying where we're going to put them.
Right.
But,
I agree.
But the fact is that they'll certainly know after a while. But that's an historical park. Not only do we have to protect the park, but we also have to protect the people that are in the park, especially the kids' playground. We have, they're in the park all the time. Any damages to any of the benches, like Brian said, or the barrels, people have paid for those benches that put their family names on it. I'm a member of Friends of the Park, and we big push for that and different functions that we would run to get that money. June O'Leary put a lot of time and effort into it. The roadways, the DPW takes really good care of it. The playgrounds, the baseball fields, outstanding. We need to protect it. 6-8 months ago, there was a chair, somebody threw a chair in the pond. You need to stop things like that. And the only way to stop it is to make people say, well, I better not do that because there's cameras in the park. So I don't know. Probably the chief can probably speak more to that, but I think it's not only, it's a safety and secured issue for that park, for the people that use it and for the things that are in it.
What do you think, Chief? Come on down.
Come on down.
Good evening. Thanks for having me again. So it has been a topic of discussion, both on the side of Big Brother, who's watching, and I can assure you that that really wouldn't be the case in practicality. Okay, from the police station when we built that 10 years ago, there are a number of cameras. Some of them are exterior, some of them are interior. So we can follow somebody around from the time they pull into the gate and actually out front. And some of the cameras are exterior on the building, but they do face the street. So, but we're not monitoring those cameras, and we wouldn't be monitoring cameras in the park unless we were directed to for some reason. In other words, if we got a call for
Suspicious activity.
fighting, God forbid, an abduction, then we could zone in on those cameras. That's the positive side. The negative side is people don't want to be watched necessarily. There are cameras in a lot of businesses around town for the same reasons, vandalism, theft, you name it. So the pros and cons need to be weighed in that factor. Do I think it would be beneficial? It might make our job easier, but then you're going to have to weigh that with what the public wants. So the areas where people congregate are an issue. The pool is sometimes an issue where after hours there might be a group on a hot evening, hop the fence, and that's a liability issue, obviously. We do run through the park both during the day and after hours, and that's reflective in the data that I sent to Lincoln. So the uptick does occur, obviously, during the warmer weather months. There's going to be more people frequenting the park, so obviously more things happen. Winter, it dies down, and then it picks back up again. This year, it probably rose a little bit because last year it was more or less shut down due to COVID. If we go back a few more years, we might get a better picture of what it looks like overall. I don't think there's been a rash of incidents that anyone should be concerned about. There are small pockets of incidents that do happen specifically, and sometimes it'll make a social media page for whatever reason because just word gets out, and then it just flourishes from there. Everybody weighs in.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
The voice of reason. Anyone have any questions of the chief?
Now, I do have one. The cameras, generally speaking, as if you've looked at the NASA, their webpage, you can look at the Mars rover and you can count every pebble. And then you look at bank footage, and it looks like Al Capone, 1939 or something, I would hope that we would be able to do better than that, but obviously we know NASA's top of the line. But having cameras and not being able to determine what is there makes it foolish money. So I think we have to make sure that when we go, we have something that's going to be reliable and you can actually detect what's
just in our discussions with our IT director, first of all, the cameras are panoramic and 360, and some of them are able to, you can zoom in if you're live. Otherwise, they're just going to remain static. But they do get better with technology. So, and it's all what you're willing to pay for.
And I think that's, to that point, there's no point in buying, if the town was to do this, there's no point in buying something that's not going to be useful. So I think that's the thinking behind, $45,000 figure is if we did want to pursue it and have it on the capital plan and request funds for it at town meeting, that we want to do it properly. And as the chief implied, when it's not going to be watched all the time, it seems like the cameras are really like a crime-solving tool, not a crime prevention tool. Right.
Yeah. They may be a deterrent, once it gets out there that there's cameras in the park. So usually that will wear off over time because it won't be in the forefront of your mind anymore. Or anyone who's frequenting the park, they'll just go in and they'll forget they're there, which we all do, even at the station. We're on camera, but we don't necessarily, recall it. We're on camera. It's just another day, and
just another day.
They fade away, So
Only 3 cameras here.
Did I see your hand up, Sean?
Do you mind if I add?
No. Not up.
Remember, you're on camera.
Thank you.
You
just
sat through the whole meeting. You might as well have your say.
This is kind of it's just an issue that's always kind of struck me as important. That I feel like it's come to the surface that the town has some difficulty with kids in the community with like graffiti and those sorts of trouble at the park. You can spend $45,000 on cameras to catch them and hold them accountable, and that's one aspect maybe. But I think also on the other side, something you should consider is building ways to build culture and build community that's going to be pro-social. You know, $45,000 could go, I mean, the rec commission right now is, they do some incredible things. Giving more money to people who are holding events or intramurals, somebody who could be over there having like an after-school basketball program. I mean, those sorts of things are going to develop kids to have pride in their community, so that when someone starts to deface a bench, they say, hey, knock it off, as opposed to having to catch them and then fine them and then, down that whole kind of punitive road. So just something to consider.
Thanks. And while you're there, I just got to mention one thing. I had said, I think, it might have been a month or so ago, that we needed to talk about the idea of open forum, whether it's in the spirit of the open meeting law, where people should know what we're going to be talking about and what else. We have to come back to that. I have a note to myself that we have to come back to that conversation at some point to make a decision about what we want to do around that whole thing called open forum. But you made me think of it.
Okay.
Thanks.
What he's saying is he missed you, Sean.
We don't have to get sappy about it. What about abandoned housing initiative?
Just briefly, just wanted to inform the board. So briefly, the Attorney General's office has an alternative whereby with abandoned homes, homes that are where no one lives or are having serious structural deficiencies, rather than if not in almost all cases, these homes are also behind on their real estate taxes. There's probably behind on water and sewer, et cetera. So this is certainly something that we've pursued in the past. That Bob Curran, our building commissioner, has pursued in the past by going this alternative route rather than, for example, foreclosing on a property if they're behind on their taxes and water or sewer, et cetera, is working with the Attorney General's office. They can getting a list to the Attorney General's office and them working directly with the homeowner, attempting to locate a homeowner if they're missing, going to housing court and attempting to enforce improvements to the building and making it so that it's not abandoned anymore. So this is something we've pursued in the past. Just wanted to inform the board that on a staff level, with the fire chief, with the building commissioner, our treasurer collector, our health inspector, and certainly if there was a elderly person involved, I'd certainly want to include our council on aging director to attempt to go this alternative route and really make that more robust in attempting to get more homes that are abandoned or appear to be abandoned on this list to be shared, and advocating for it with the Attorney General's office rather than going the alternative route of foreclosing, et cetera. So just wanted to let the board know that on a staff level, that's something we're thinking about focusing on.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. And the next item on the agenda is the town administrator's goals and objectives. Lincoln has sent us a refashioned list of his goals and objectives. Does anyone have any? And this basically is a document upon which we'll be evaluating him at some point in time. We need to eventually discuss when we want to do that, at what point in time it's good to do that. Any reactions to what he's given you?
I appreciate the format, laying it out as remainder of fiscal 22, day-to-day goals, and fiscal 23 and beyond. It kind of structures what we were struggling with a couple of weeks ago of you've got, 9 months left in this fiscal year and 30 goals. So this is a little more digestible.
I had mentioned something to Lincoln earlier today about one of his goals and objectives that I even thought should be a goal, but I wondered about it, and I think I spoke to Randy, and I spoke about it at one point. It's probably our goal, more specifically, to hire an assistant town administrator that is Lincoln's. The assistant town administrator works for us. So I'm not sure he should be responsible for that particular goal. It's our responsibility. So we talked a little bit about the process. What I see, and see if you guys think the same thing. I see our giving Lincoln the responsibility to, within a certain period of time, which would be a short period of time, I think, to give to us a job description that can be posted, so that we can advertise the position with qualifications and all that kind of stuff. We'd have to okay it first after he gives it to us, and then it would have a short committee of Lincoln and I'd say 2 selectmen to go through the applications that we get and to winnow them down to a series of what we could. One way of putting it would be to say semi-finalists, a group of people, 7, 8 maybe, depending upon what comes in. And then those 3 people would interview those candidates, and then recommend to the Board of Selectmen as a whole 3 finalists, which we would then interview. And Lincoln made a good point. It's good to have people interviewed twice, people that were serious about interviewed twice, so it would have semi-finalists and finalists. And then would ask Lincoln for his recommendation of those 3, and then we would ultimately cast a vote for it. Does that make sense to you all?
Good.
That's similar to something that what we've done in the past, not using a search firm. But I think we ought to be able to handle it. Agree. Randy?
Mr. Chairman, I would just say this is something for me that I'd like to see expedited.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I don't want to get into budget season and be doing this. I'd rather have somebody in place.
Right. We're short. We are short-staffed.
Right.
We need people. We need a person anyway. So yeah, this would be something that maybe at our next meeting on the whenever we said it was going to be October 12th, maybe we could have a job description to approve, and then immediately get posted.
And immediately name that committee as well?
Yeah. Let me know. Let me know if you're interested in serving on that, and then I'll put the committee together. Okay, so let me know if you could let me know by the 12th. Okay. So you can take that one out. And you can. What I would put in is something that deals with the long discussion we had today about processes and protocols for groups using the town facilities.
Yeah, sure.
And working on getting those policies in writing and established on the website in a fashion that people can find it.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I'm good. I like Justin. I like the way you organize them and put that together. And I was looking at the form that we decided to use. That form will work out nicely in going through these things.
I just said, because we've talked so much about the website, I have a question. If somebody fills an application or something like that out on the website, who gets that?
Depends on what it's for. An application for like a committee or commission member, for example?
In general, like I know that's on there, so.
Depends on what it is the end. So, right, so if it's, so, for example, I mean, the Permit Eyes, which is our electronic permitting software which is now implemented for the building department and will very soon be implemented for Board of Selectmen permits. When it's a building department, it'll go to the building department and they'll deal with it. When it's now the Board of Selectmen permits are up there, it'll go to Lori. So it depends on what it is.
Okay, so it is getting segmented to the proper departments.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Gotcha, that was it.
Okay. Anybody else?
Looks good.
Okay.
So, and just to be clear, so we're mutual, just to put a pin in the goal piece, we're looking at the top, for the purposes of this, for the specific, non-day-to-day goals, we're looking at the top 6 there, with the exception of number 3, and in putting in place number 3 is the ATA, the process for using town facilities, right? Just so we're sort of officially all on board that this is what we're doing. Great, thank you.
Al, if I may?
Yes.
One of the things, when I was looking at the goals and objectives, the biggest thing that struck out to me is the day-to-day goals that you set. And sometimes I think, I can remember town administrators in the past where their desks would be piled up to here, right? Things need to get done on a day-to-day basis, running the town, or different department heads ask you for something, and it gets put in a pile. I mean, Frank had the same situation, piles here, piles there. So to me, I think one of the big important things to do is to prioritize, and when you have day-to-day operations on a day, week, month basis, and somebody comes in and says, I need this by the end of tomorrow, by the end of today or tomorrow or in 2 days, that it doesn't get put on a pile, it gets done. I mean, I was a supervisor, department head for years with the company that I work for, and it's the day-to-day operations that stand out, I think, in my mind the most, that things are done in a timely fashion, because there's some things that you may have to put your stamp of approval on for 2 other departments that work for the town or in this building to go forward. So that's what I look at, That's my soapbox.
That's your 2 cents, huh?
Yeah.
I remember having a big inbox on my desk at one time when I worked as a manager. And, it's funny, if you leave something there long enough, you never have to do it. He just goes through the pile and throws stuff away. Okay, we need to go into executive session in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Exception 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, and Exception 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and we will be coming back into open session only to adjourn.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, we're in executive session.